Germany's lightning-fast victories in the early years of World War II weren't just luck. Behind every rapid advance was a centuries-old philosophy that turned chaos into control. Today, we uncover the secret doctrines that made the German army so terrifying, doctrines known as Bewegungskrieg, the war of maneuver and Auftragstaktik mission-type tactics. Bewegungskrieg, literally war of maneuver, rejected the slow, grinding battles of World War I. Instead of waiting in trenches, German strategists believed in speed, flexibility, and decisive strikes. The goal: concentrate forces on weak points, bypass strongholds, and encircle the enemy before they even knew what hit them. This doctrine has its roots in Prussian military tradition and thinkers like Karl von Clausewitz, who taught that war is unpredictable and requires initiative, adaptation, and rapid decision-making. After the First World War, Germany studied how to avoid stalemate and develop tactics that would later be executed with tanks, mechanized infantry, and close air support, a deadly combination that would define early World War II. If Bewegungskrieg was a plan, Auftragstaktik was a philosophy that made it work. Auftragstaktik, or mission-type tactics, gave officers freedom. Instead of detailed step-by-step orders, a commander would give an objective: capture this town by dusk, leaving the subordinate to decide how to accomplish it. Why? Because in war, nothing goes exactly as planned. Orders can become obsolete the moment bullets start flying. By empowering junior officers to act independently, the German army turned every unit into an adaptive, decision-making machine. Initiative wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. These two doctrines were inseparable. Bewegungskrieg set the stage for rapid, decisive maneuvers, while Auftragstaktik ensured that even in chaos, commanders could act decisively without waiting for higher orders. The result: a German army that could adapt faster than almost any opponent, exploiting openings with precision and speed. It's important to note that what the world later called Blitzkrieg wasn't a formal doctrine. It was the effect of these principles in action, maneuver warfare guided by initiative at every level. In the next part, we'll see how these doctrines played out in real battles, from Poland 1939 to the lightning conquest of France in 1940. How did maneuver and mission command create some of the fastest victories in military history? Stay tuned. In the early days of World War II, the German army unleashed a military machine that moved faster than anyone could predict. Lightning strikes that crushed opponents in days, not months. These weren't accidents. They were the results of centuries of planning and a philosophy of warfare built on maneuver and initiative. September 1st, 1939, Poland is under attack. German forces cross a border not with slow attrition, but with speed and precision. This was Bewegungskrieg in its purest form. The result? In just 18 days, Poland fell. Encirclements trapped entire Polish divisions, cutting off supplies and reinforcements. Commanders on the ground made split-second decisions that the high command could never anticipate, turning every unit into an adaptive instrument of war. May 10th, 1940, Germany turned its attention west. The French expected a repeat of World War I strategies, with attacks through Belgium. Instead, the German army did the unthinkable. They struck to the Ardennes forest, a terrain thought nearly impassable for tanks. Within days, German forces reached the English Channel, splitting Allied armies and trapping hundreds of thousands of soldiers. A campaign that the world expected to last months ended in weeks, a testament to maneuver and decentralized command. Poland 1939 and France 1940 proved the power of German doctrine. Bewegungskrieg allowed rapid, decisive advances. Auftragstaktik turned every unit into a decision-making engine, able to react instantly to battlefield chaos. It wasn't luck. It was centuries of preparation, training, and philosophy combined with mechanization and modern tactics. These battles were a masterclass in speed, flexibility, and initiative, lessons that still resonate in military strategy today. By 1941, the German war machine had conquered Europe at lightning speed. But speed and initiative alone were not invincible. As the Wehrmacht turned east toward the Soviet Union, the limits of their doctrines would be brutally exposed. Bewegungskrieg and Auftragstaktik thrive in fast campaigns with limited enemy depth. But against the USSR, the scale, distance, and harsh conditions tested both doctrines. The doctrines that allowed for rapid encirclements now require decisions under extreme uncertainty. Subordinate commanders had freedom, but the vast distances made communication impossible. Initiative alone could not solve fundamental shortages. June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa begins. Over 3 million German soldiers, thousands of tanks and aircraft, sweep across a front more than 1,800 miles long. By October, Germany's advance slowed. Supply lines were overextended. Tanks broke down and harsh Russian winters immobilized entire divisions. Even Auftragstaktik couldn't overcome logistical collapse. Independent decisions by field commanders could not compensate for shortages of fuel, ammunition, and food. The very flexibility that enabled earlier victories could not conjure resources that weren't there. Operation Barbarossa revealed that doctrines are not magic. Bewegungskrieg depends on mobility, supply, and strategic depth. Auftragstaktik depends on trained leaders, clear objectives, and effective communication. Remove any of these, and even the most brilliant strategy can fail. The invasion of the USSR marked the beginning of a grinding war of attrition, a conflict the German army was ill-prepared for. What worked in Poland and France faltered in the face of size, climate, and determined resistance. By late 1942, the unstoppable German army that had raced across Europe faced its ultimate test. The doctrines that once delivered lightning victories were now running up against a brutal reality. The Soviet Union was fighting back, and the tide of war was turning. August 1942, German forces reached Stalingrad. What was intended as a quick, decisive strike becomes a grinding urban battle. Bewegungskrieg, built for open maneuver, finds no room to operate. Tanks become vulnerable in narrow streets. Infantry is bogged down in close combat. Auftragstaktik gives commanders freedom, but even initiative can't overcome the sheer scale of the city or the resilience of the defenders. The Germans are forced into a slow, attritional fight, a type of warfare their doctrines were never designed to win. Winter 1942-43 hits. Soviet forces encircled German units during Operation Uranus. The very initiative that once allowed German units to advance rapidly now cannot save them from being trapped. The psychological and operational shock is enormous. For the first time, Blitzkrieg, the lightning war, has been stopped. Speed, initiative, and maneuver cannot overcome encirclement and attrition. Stalingrad becomes a symbol. The end of Germany's Blitzkrieg dominance. Early successes in Poland and France relied on speed and initiative, but the combination of Soviet depth harsh winters, extended supply lines, and fierce resistance exposes the limits of German doctrine. From now on, every German advance will be contested, slowed, and eventually pushed back. The war will no longer be a lightning strike. It will be a grinding, exhausting fight. Stalingrad teaches a harsh lesson. Doctrine is only as strong as its context. Bewegungskrieg works in open, mobile warfare. Auftragstaktik works when communication and supply lines are intact. Remove either, and even the most trained and motivated army can falter. The German army had underestimated the Soviet Union's resilience and the brutal Russian winter. Blitzkrieg, once synonymous with unstoppable victory, is now a memory of what worked in 1939 and 1940, and what cannot conquer everything. In the next part, we'll explore the final years of the war, the collapse of the Eastern and Western fronts, and how Germany's early strategies ultimately failed against overwhelming opposition. From doctrine to disaster, the story of Blitzkrieg comes full circle. By 1943, the German war machine that had once raced across Europe was faltering. The doctrines of speed, maneuver, and initiative could no longer save it. The Third Reich was entering the final, desperate phase of a war it could not win. After Stalingrad, the Eastern Front became a relentless battle of attrition. Soviet forces, reinforced and motivated, pushed the Germans back, retaking territory inch by inch. The same speed and initiative that had crushed Poland and France now met insurmountable obstacles. Even Auftragstaktik couldn't solve these problems. Commanders in the field had freedom, but when the army itself is starving, freezing, and encircled, initiative alone cannot win. Meanwhile, in the West, the Allies opened a second front. D-Day, June 6, 1944, marked the beginning of a relentless push into German territory. Panzer divisions were unable to respond effectively to the well-coordinated, overwhelming assaults. April 1945. Soviet troops storm Berlin. German forces are exhausted, supply lines gone and morale shattered. Street-to-street fighting shows the final failure of doctrines designed for open maneuver, not urban destruction. By May 8, 1945, the Third Reich surrendered. The speed, flexibility, and initiative that had defined early victories could not withstand strategic overstretch, overwhelming opposition, and logistical collapse. The story of the German army in World War II is a cautionary tale. Bewegungskrieg and Auftragstaktik created a tactical and operational machine capable of rapid, decisive victories, but only under the right conditions. When the conditions changed, vast territories, harsh winters, overwhelming enemies, and stretched logistics, even the most brilliant doctrines could fail. The Third Reich's collapse reminds us that strategy is only as strong as its execution and context. From Poland to France, from USSR Berlin, we've traced the rise and fall of a doctrine that promised lightning victories and ultimately met its limits against the harsh reality of total war. World War II may have ended in 1945, but the doctrines that created Germany's lightning victories did not disappear. Bewegungskrieg and Auftragstaktik have influenced armies around the world, from NATO exercises to modern mechanized warfare. Bewegungskrieg, the war of maneuver, teaches the importance of speed, concentration of forces, and operational flexibility. Auftragstaktik, mission-type command, emphasizes initiative, decentralized decision-making, and trust in subordinate commanders. These principles are studied in military academies worldwide. Modern armies have adapted them to mechanized, digital, and networked warfare, proving that the philosophy of maneuver and initiative transcends tanks and artillery. The lesson is clear. Doctrine must evolve, but the core principles of initiative, flexibility, and decisive action remain as relevant today as they were on the battlefield of Europe. Germany's early victories, Poland, France, show the power of speed and decentralized command. But the later failures, the USSR, Stalingrad, Berlin, show that even brilliant doctrines can fail if logistics, terrain, and strategic depth are ignored. Modern military planners study both sides of this coin. How to exploit maneuver, but also how to avoid overreach, sustain supply lines, and adapt to unforeseen conditions. Nations today still teach commanders to think like the German officers of World War II, to understand objectives, assess risks, and act decisively when opportunities arise. Mission command and maneuver warfare are central to NATO, U.S. Army doctrine, and even modern urban combat planning. Yet the cautionary tale is remembered. Even the most effective doctrines can collapse under extreme conditions. Flexibility is only as strong as preparation, training, and resources. In essence, Germany's legacy is a dual lesson. Brilliance in execution can create lightning victories, but ignoring limits leads to disaster. The principles endure, the failures instruct. From the lightning victories in Poland and France to the grueling defeats in Stalingrad and Berlin, the story of German military doctrine is one of genius and hubris intertwined. Bewegungskrieg and Auftragstaktik were not just tactics, they were philosophies that reshaped warfare. Today, military minds study these doctrines not as relics, but as living lessons for speed, initiative, and adaptability, balanced with logistics and strategy. The echoes of Blitzkrieg continue to shape modern conflict, proving that even in defeat, the lessons of history are timeless.